Welcome to another edition of eYe Education. These special programs are being devoted to introducing Nashua voters to candidates running for the Board of Education in the November 7th election. I'm your host, Ed Leicius, and joining us in this program is incumbent member of the Board of Education, Paula Johnson. Paula, welcome to eYe Education.
Thank you, Ed, for having me. What a beautiful day it is already
So
today.
you haven't slowed down any. You've been an alderman on the school board and the state house, and this technically would be your third term you're running for, having started back in 2000, and
Yes.
you're still at it.
I'm still at it, and you know what? I've just turned 70, and I was doing the forum at the high school the day of my birthday, and I think I have more energy now at 70 than I did at 40.
I guess I've never not known you to have any energy, Paula.
Thank you.
You certainly back up and fight vigorously for your beliefs.
I do, and I truly believe that Nashua is going through another phase in its histories here. I think that the school district, we have a good superintendent now that's trying to put in more CTE programs that I believe that we need, give our students more opportunities if they don't want to go on to college and go out and get into the workforce now. And part of it is the police academy, fire academy, and I think this is wonderful.
Since you first started running, a lot has changed when it comes to the media in town. We no longer have a daily paper.
No.
Radio is here, but not like it was back in the day.
And you were on the radio, you had
yeah.
your program, and you were wonderful.
So for our viewers today, who is Paula Johnson? For those who don't know you and may have just heard your name or seen it occasionally, who's Paula Johnson?
You know, so hard to talk about yourself. I am, as I said, I'm 70 years old now. I started back in 2000. I ran for the Board of Education. I felt that special ed needed some help and we needed to look at our special needs kids a little bit more. I am a mother of 3 grown children. I have 3 beautiful grandchildren now, which I'm so blessed to have. I'm from New York originally. I've been married to Jim for almost 42 years, which is hard to believe in this day and age, and we're all together yet. I'm a fighter. I fight in what I believe in. I started on the Board of Education. I decided to run in the middle of my term for Alderman at Large, and the good people of Nashua allowed me to go on to become an Alderman at Large, and I fought for many things in the city. One of my greatest things was handicap parking. I put a $200 fine. Anybody who parked that didn't have a handicap placard or plate had a $200 fine. I fought for the veterans, for them to have the veterans credit. At that point, it was $250. I brought it up to $500 that the state allowed, and I wish now that they bring it up to $750 a year for our veterans, to say thank you to our veterans for what they've done. The state of the city, well, we had the state of the state, the state of the union. Well, we never had a state of the city, and back then Tim Nickerson and I were not friends, and we worked together, so you can reach across the aisle and work together on many things. I sponsored it, he co-sponsored the state of the city. So then this way, when the mayor's going to present his budget, he can't go to like the Chamber of Commerce first. The alderman had to see it. And there were many other things that I did. And I was out there, always accessible to my constituents. I am now. I just say to people, please call me or text me because emails get lost, you know, and you can't get to everybody. I vowed when I became a member of the Board of Education, I was not going to go on Facebook and get into these conversations and these shouting matches on Facebook, because you know what you say in a conversation face to face and what you write can be misconstrued. Mm-hmm. So I am always accessible. I work locally, and some of my work colleagues go, I can't believe Paula Johnson's here working with us. Well, I'm just the average person out there, but I fight. I fight for what I believe in, and if people have concerns, they're welcome to call or text me, and I will sit and talk to them and see what I can do. And they did the same thing when I was at the State House.
You mentioned the new superintendent, and
Yes.
It appears, I don't want to jinx it, but it appears we have found some stability there after
Yes.
several failed attempts at finding a successor to occupy that chair. What does Dr. Andrade bring in your mind and in your thought to the city as superintendent of schools?
He's willing to sit down and have conversations with everybody. He's willing to reach out to the community. He has a vision, which before I didn't think we had anybody who had a vision. He's great to work with. I mean, you can ask him questions and he'll get back to you. Where the other superintendents, they just didn't want to answer. When I say vision, like I mentioned, 2 new CTE programs. Right. We're trying to rebuild that. We have the redistricting, and we have to have somebody with leadership when we open up that new school in September. So I think that I truly believe that he's a person that has that vision, and I hope he's going to be with us for many years to come.
Looking forward, if you're reelected, what do you see as the top 2 or 3 issues that this next board is going to have to deal with?
Redistricting, and the schools. What schools are we going to keep open? Are we going to have to close any school with the declining population? When Mr. Preston came in to do the redistricting report, when we were talking about redistricting just the middle schools, I said we had to split the redistricting of the middle with the elementary. The redistricting of the middle schools had to be done because come September 2024, the kids have to move over. With that said, I was concerned for our students on Broad Street because it's going to be a lengthy ride for them to go from Broad Street almost into Hollis. Okay, that's my concern. The other concern I had, and I voiced it out, basically, nobody did the studies before they came up with the new middle schools, because if they had looked at the population, and I always talked about that when I was on the Board of Ed in the past, that our population has been decreasing. And if they had done their homework, they would have seen that we might not have needed a new middle school, that we might have been able to retrofit the 2 middle schools that we have now like we did the high schools. So if the population keeps decreasing, what's going to happen? Are we going to have 3 middle schools with not enough students to fill it? And if you look at the elementary schools, Mr. Preston said we can close 6 elementary schools. I wouldn't recommend that at this point in time. You have to see what happens with the population. You have the Monahan development. You're going to have kids coming in there. Before we did we talked about this on the elementary, I called the Nashua housing development and asked them to find out how many kids are coming in there at this point in time, because you need to know that when you're going to redistrict the elementary. Nobody called me back, which is a shame because we really need this information. And so the question is, what's going to happen with the elementary redistricting? What's going to happen with Mount Pleasant? And I've been the one that said, we need the numbers. Well, in 2017, we had numbers and we knew what had to be done. Well, we're now at 2023. So what had to be done in 2017 is different than what needs to be done in 2023. And we know that the classroom size is probably going to have to increase because of the Department of Education regulations. And we all know once you start going into the electrical and the plumbing, it has to go up to code. And what is the cost factor here? If you couldn't keep Mount Pleasant open, could we keep Mount Pleasant, maybe try within the city to keep it more into a neighborhood community development center where the difference in upgrade you probably wouldn't have to do like you did on Arlington Street with the fire department. So there's ways that we can work around things, but it's that question of what is our student populations going to be in the next 3 to 5 years, and what's going to happen with Mount Pleasant. And I think you need to keep the consistency on the board with members that were now that are incumbents. So when new members come on, you have the members that are there that can keep going, and to have 2 members come on and to bring them up to speed is easier than to have 5 new members on the board. And so I'm hoping that the great people of the city will re-elect me to make those hard decisions again. And this, I mean, is really a hard decision that's coming up with the remainder of the redistricting at Mount Pleasant.
It's never easy. As a parent who went through redistricting more than several years ago, it's never easy, but it is something that does have to be addressed.
Exactly.
I wish we had a program like Mr. Preston's back when our redistricting took place, because that certainly made it a little easier in terms of being able to move things around and see it on the map as to where it was going.
Well, back then we did not have all the computers and
That's right.
electronics, and everything was paper, and people wouldn't understand. Now our students wouldn't understand how you did with paper and how you pinned it. I also said the night that we did the redistricting for the middle school, I wanted to have it overlapped on the map so we saw where it was coming, and they didn't do that. And which, even with electronics now in this day and age, it's hard even to see it on the screen. You really need to overlap it at times, like GPS overlaps it.
Well, as I said at the beginning, the media isn't what it was when you first started running for office. So we got a couple of minutes left here. For our viewers, what would you like to say to them? Why should they vote for Paula Johnson on November 7th?
As I said, I would appreciate the vote on November 7th. I'm number 6 on the ballot. I want to continue the redistricting plan as I've started with the rest of the members of the board. During COVID, I fought for the parents. I fought for parental rights. And I think parental rights is very important. I wish that parents would come in more to the meetings like they did during COVID, because we really need parental input. I have my little brochure here that talks about why you should vote for me here, and November 7th, and what I've done in the past. And I'm concerned about what's happening in the schools today. And I want to see more parents come out and be part of the system again, like it was before COVID. I'd like to see more parents at the meeting. I want to make sure our redistricting, that we can work with the parents during redistricting, that it becomes more transparent, that we hear more of their concerns on what might happen. I want to hear more from the Mount Pleasant parents and the principal and our teachers on what they see needs to be done in that school. It is a great school and a great community, and I'm so happy that they did come in and speak about it, because the night that we were having the vote on it, I was all ready to vote to close it. And then I spoke with 2 of my colleagues on the board, and I listened. That's the thing, I listen and weigh everything. And that I changed my mind, and it's okay to change your mind. And it's okay to reach across the aisle and work with people, and to say at the end of our debates on our issues here, we can walk out and be friends and speak. And that's what we need more in the city, on both sides, on both boards here, basically, is that we need to work as a team, and we just don't do that.
Paula, thanks for being with us today. Good luck on November 7th.
Thank you, Ed, and I appreciate you having me here today.
We've been talking with Paula Johnson, candidate for re-election to the Board of Education on November 7th. This has been a special edition of eYe in Education. I'm your host, Ed Leishus, and we'll see you next time.